Mesdames, Messieurs, bonsoir. Merci d'être si nombreux ce soir. Je suis Christophe Kelton, directeur de campus sur Ashbury. Christine Riez, la proviseure adjointe, devait assurer cette présentation. Elle s'excuse, elle a un empêchement. Donc je vous remercie d'être si nombreux ce soir pour cette réunion sur la sécurité. Je crois qu'elle ne pouvait pas tomber plus à propos en raison de ce qu'on a peut-être tous ressenti hier soir. Donc on va voir ensemble pendant 2 heures si on est prêt, préparé et informé à réagir à tout type d'alerte. Ce soir donc, Madame Sophie Lafitte, vice-consul, va nous présenter cette réunion. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup Christophe et bonsoir à tous et à toutes. Je suis impressionnée par cette audience. Vous êtes la plus grande depuis que je fais ces réunions et je vous remercie d'être là ce soir. Peut-être que les petites secousses qu'on a ressenties ces deux dernières semaines ne sont pas étrangères à votre présence. En tout cas, merci d'être là. Je voudrais remercier le lycée français tout d'abord d'avoir permis d'organiser une fois encore cette réunion dans ce beau théâtre qui est un bel outil de travail. Je voudrais également remercier les associations françaises qui sont très actives et dynamiques et qui, avec nous, ont relayé le message de l'invitation, que sont l'UFE, dont la représentante est ici présente ce soir. Merci à elle. C'est pas tous les jours qu'ils peuvent se déplacer, donc c'est super. L'ADFE également et SFBA. Pourquoi ce type de réunion? Je ne sais pas s'il y en a qui ont déjà assisté à la réunion l'année dernière, mais on s'est rendu compte avec le consul général il y a 2 ans, quand je suis arrivée, qu'il y avait une asymétrie entre ceux que connaissaient les Américains et ceux que connaissait la communauté française. Il y avait aussi une asymétrie entre ceux que vous connaissez en tant que parents et ceux que connaissent vos enfants. Et enfin, il y a une asymétrie entre ceux que nous on fait au consulat, parce qu'on se prépare, on fait des exercices, on tient des comités de sécurité, des réunions de sécurité, et la communauté française qui n'est pas forcément sensibilisée aux risques naturels de la région dans laquelle ils vivent. Et c'est pour ça que depuis 2 ans, et je leur en suis très reconnaissante, nous avons un partenariat avec la Red Cross, avec Alison Bidinger et Eleanor Najar, et nous organisons ces réunions à San Francisco et dans la baie. L'année dernière, on en a fait 8. On en a fait, c'est moi qui les ai conduites toutes, pas toutes avec Eleanor et Alison, c'était avec des collègues aussi de la baie, et j'étais aussi à Portland, Seattle et Hawaï. Et cette année, c'est la 3e et dernière de l'année. On verra si on en fait d'autres l'année prochaine. En tout cas, pour 2019, c'est la 3e. Donc, nous sommes à la 11e réunion avec Alison Bidinger, qui est, je vais vous le dire en anglais, ça sera moins impressionnant que si je le dis en français, je pense, Regional Disaster Officer, et Eleanor Najar, qui est volunteer. Alors, c'est une réunion qui va se tenir en anglais, elle est interactive. Ça veut dire que vous posez toutes les questions que vous voulez. C'est le moment ou jamais, elles sont là pour vous ce soir. Le support sera mis en ligne sur notre site internet. Nous avons travaillé cet été sur la refonte et la clarification de notre site internet et vous trouverez en cas d'urgence / sécurité tout ce que vous voulez savoir sur la sécurité, sur le plan de sécurité et surtout la configuration de vos chefs d'îlots. On fonctionne avec des chefs d'îlots sur San Francisco et dans les États qu'on représente qui sont au nombre de 10. Je rappelle que le consulat, il assure la protection des intérêts des Français, qu'ils soient résidents ou de passage. Et pour nous aider à remplir au mieux cette mission, c'est-à-dire connaître la cartographie de nos Français qui sont résidents, il y a un outil qu'on utilise, qui est un outil mondial, et que je vous recommande si vous ne l'avez pas encore utilisé, c'est le registre. Ça permet vous pouvez vous inscrire sur le registre mondial des Français de l'étranger. Ça vous permet d'être facilité dans le cadre de vos démarches administratives. Ça nous permet à nous de savoir où est notre communauté française, d'avoir une cartographie fine, de savoir où vous êtes, qui vous êtes, et qui contacter en cas de difficulté, et si on peut relayer l'information si vous n'êtes pas à même de le faire. Et nous, de notre côté, quand il y a par exemple une crise, un incendie, On peut faire des extractions sur ce registre et envoyer un message groupé à ces Français dans la zone en disant attention, il y a ceci qui est en cours chez vous, faites attention, suivez les consignes des autorités locales, etc. Et nous avons également des chefs d'îlot qui sont nos relais. Donc c'est très important de s'inscrire, c'est pas compliqué, vous allez sur service-public.fr et ça prend 2 minutes en ligne. Et on peut vous aider à le faire. J'ai des flyers, j'en ai plein à vous donner à la fin de la réunion. Je vais m'arrêter là. Donc la présentation va être faite par Alison Biddington. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And the floor will be yours very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. All right. Thank you for having us, Sophie. I wanted to know if you planned on that earthquake last night to motivate everybody to show up today. I think it was probably really helpful. I know I thought of it when I felt the earthquake. I knew I'd have a very rapt audience eager to hear what we have to talk about tonight. So thanks for joining us. So I'm Allison Fittinger. I'm the Disaster Program Manager for Red Cross here in San Francisco. I support the volunteers who do all of the work. And so we support the preparedness work. This is part of our preparedness activities. The response, so anytime there's a fire in San Francisco in which the family might be displaced, we will respond and see how we can help them. And then we help them in their recovery afterwards. So that's some of the stuff that I do on a day-to-day basis. I also work a lot with the voluntary organizations active in disaster and help make connections. Red Cross can't do everything, so we help make connections so we can reach even further into the community. Does that sound good for you guys? Can you hear me well? Okay. So, here's our mission. We are here to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies with volunteers and donors. So all of our money is donated by organizations and individuals, and so everything that we give to a client or the work that we do is done by donor dollars and with volunteers. There's about 90% of the workforce that we have is volunteers. So many of the things that get done are done by our team. So we also, as an organization, have different arms and branches and activities. One of the branches is services to the armed forces. We'll help the families that are here who have military members deploy, connect with them for a family emergency and pass information on. We also have international services. We will help families reconnect after a disaster or some other type of emergency. We'll help with that emergency communication. We do blood service as well. We are the provider of about 40% of the blood supply in the United States. In San Francisco, we do have a warehouse that we distribute blood to area hospitals from. There's some in the East Bay as well. And it's a big part of what we do, and it's very important. So if you can give blood, we'd love to have some. We also work with youth services. We have clubs at schools and high schools and colleges, and we put a lot of work into preparing youth and utilizing the youth to help prepare our communities. Training services is where you can go to get CPR, babysitter training, some of the first aid classes. And then this is my team, the Disaster Cycle Services team. So that's my favorite. This is what we'll be talking about today is preparedness for disasters. Hope is not a plan. So we can hope for a lot of things, but it's what you do now and how you plan that will help make the disaster a lot easier for you. This is our hazard map from across the country. We're very much in the earthquake and wildfire zone and season, but you can see that we have different hazards throughout the country that we face. We'll be focusing on home fires and earthquakes in this talk, though. We do send a lot of people, a lot of our volunteers will respond across the country. So when there are the big hurricanes, we send out teams to go and practice the work that they've been trained to do on a disaster, and then they bring back that information and those lessons learned to our team so that we can be even better here. So the main disaster that we respond to nationwide and here in San Francisco is a house fire. Every day about 7 people die from a home fire, and just this month we had 2 in San Francisco, 2 fatalities from home fire. If you have a working smoke alarm, you're 50% more likely to survive a house fire. So it's very important to check your smoke alarms to make sure that they're working. We also plan and prepare for earthquakes. As you guys probably all felt last night, we are in earthquake country, and it is something that happens. Lately it's been happening more often, but we'll talk about some of the things you can do to help yourself be ready and prepared and respond when there is an earthquake. So last night we had a 4.7. Raise your hand if you felt it. All right, good portion of you.
Raise your hand if you laughed.
Did you laugh?
Yes.
Eleanor laughed. Didn't
You're very exciting, don't you think?
Yes. But I definitely thought about how much water I have, and it's not quite enough if I had to be at home. So we take this time after a disaster to think about, well, how would I be doing today if that was a big earthquake? What should I do now to be really ready? So there's 3 steps that we encourage everyone to take. We want you to get a kit, have the things that you're going to need to make you a little bit more comfortable, ready to go. We want you to make a plan for yourself, for your family, for your loved ones, both the ones here and afar, and the people that you work with. You want to have a plan at work. What are you going to do, and what are the expectations from your coworkers and your boss, most importantly. And then be informed. Know how you can get information after a disaster. It's not likely your cell phone will work in the same way that it does right now. So think about the ways that you'll be able to connect with your family, the ways that you'll learn about what's going on and where you might want to go. We have a ton of stuff online, so if anything I say slips your mind later, you can go check out redcross.org. We also brought some flyers you can take with you. Some of the things that you should consider getting for your home is a gallon per person per day. We recommend at least 3 days, but we do live in San Francisco, and there's a chance that it could be really hard to get in and out of San Francisco. So I personally would recommend 7 days. Try and have enough supplies for yourself and your family for 7 days so that you won't be needing city services or help from somebody else, because there'll be a lot of people who will need help. We want you to get some food, not too salty, but something that you will enjoy eating. And if you get the cans, be sure to get a can opener. That's an important part. Medications and prescriptions, it can be challenging to get that extra week of prescriptions in your emergency kit, but it will be really helpful for you, especially if they are important to your comfort and health. So anything that you use, glasses, inhalers, anything that if you use a cane or a walker or somebody in your family does, you want to have an extra one ready to go so that they can still help and support themselves after a disaster. Non-prescription meds that you take regularly, pack some of those too. Some of the things that you could do to help with the medications, because it's a little bit more work with medications because they expire. So when you get a new refill your prescription, take out the stuff that's in your kit and refresh it. And that way it'll all have the same potency as you need when the disaster comes. The first aid kit. Not only do you want a first aid kit, but you want to know how to use it. So don't get a big giant fancy one if you don't know how to use the stuff that's in it. If you are only comfortable with bandages and maybe some ointment, then just get what you'll be comfortable with. But have some first aid kit, some supplies to clean wounds and cover open wounds. Flashlights and batteries. So last night it happened, it was dark. If you lose power, you're going to want to have some way to see so you can get out of your house if you need to. I recommend having a flashlight and batteries next to your bed. I put mine in my shoes next to my bed, which are bolted to my bed so that when the earth shakes, the shoes are still there. I might have taken it a little bit too far, but that's my job. So I recommend getting a pair of shoes. When the earth shakes, there might be things that break. You're not going to walk around in your cute little flats. You're going to need something to protect your feet. And so having some socks and shoes that are ready to go, it could be an old pair, You could do a command hook and put it on your bed so that it stays with your bed, or you could just put it under there. But have something that you can grab and go with should it happen at night. The other thing about the flashlight and batteries, if it's something that you're putting into a long-term kit, put the batteries outside of the flashlight. Tape them to the outside so that they're still useful, still have power when you go to put them in. And then a battery-powered crank radio. One of those, they're really helpful for getting that information, learning what's going on, where you should go. That's kind of what the radio will be doing, is sharing the information on shelter locations or places to go for information and what's happening. Some of the newer ones also have little USB ports so you can charge your phone that way, which will be really helpful. So again, all of these things, think 7 days. If you have the ability and the space, I really recommend, suggest, encourage, coerce that you do it, because there's a lot of San Franciscans who don't have the space, don't have the finances to be able to do this for themselves, and they're really going to need some help after a disaster. And so if you don't want to have to stand in line for some water, store some at home. And then an external battery pack. The cell phone battery will go fast, and it'll be very sad and hard for all of us when life is without a cell phone. So bring in battery packs that you can have access to communication. I recommend that you use text. They'll go through a lot better than an actual phone call. And we also have lots of apps that can have information and ways to communicate that you might consider downloading. And then update it. So those cans of chili and whatever else might be in there will expire. So it's important to renew it. It's better to have an old expired bag of stuff than to have no bag, but it is a lot more enjoyable to have some food that you like that's not expired and questionable.
Can I
All
ask
right.
you something?
Yeah.
I got on Amazon an emergency backpack full of things. I think most of the things you just said. Do we need to buy a new one every 6 months?
So her question was, buy an emergency pack. Do you need to buy in a new emergency pack every 6 months? Did I get your question right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, you can use the same case, just refill the things that need to be refilled. And you don't have to do it all at once. You can kind of do it in stages. Those Band-Aids will lose elasticity. You might need to replace those. So kind of just go through it in phases. But just refill the pieces that you need. Some things like the crank radio, you don't need to replace that. Or if you put in extra clothes, hopefully they still fit the same way and they're comfortable and you don't need to replace them. But if you have kids, those things will need to be, their clothes will need to be replaced, their extra shoes will need to be replaced because they'll grow fast. So the bag can remain the same. Much of the bones of the structure of the emergency kit can stay, but there'll be things that will expire. The food, the water, and some of the first aid supplies. We also want you to have a kit in your car. So many of us spend a lot of time on the road, commuting here and there, and having a kit in your car will be important. You never know if you're going to need it, and having it in your car just makes life easier. It's similar stuff to have in your kit, but there's some extra things that are helpful just because it's good to have a kit in your car. Of course, there's water and food, but masks and eye drops are really helpful. So masks will be helpful if there's a lot of debris in the air or there's smoke, and then eye drops are for the same reason. If the earth really shakes and there's a huge debris cloud, it'll be really nice to be able to rinse out your eyes. So having some eye drops on hand will be good. A blanket in case you get stuck in your car, you can't get home. A little bit of comfort. Again, first aid, gloves, sunblock, and face wipes, a hat, as you're stuck out there for a little while. So we recommend that you have a kit in your home, in your car, and at your work. Some of the things that you could do to personalize your kit is your toiletries and sanitation, so the things that you use, that you're comfortable with, work for your body, you want to put them in your kit. It's also ideal to have a bucket and garbage bags. The bucket is for the bathroom. Your toilet won't work in the same way that it does now. So you'll want to have a bucket and a place to relieve yourself, and a bag to contain it and close it, and be able to build a trash pile. It's not a fun thought to think about, not fun to talk about, but that is something that will affect how well we can all recover. If we start having some hazardous waste material everywhere, then it can get ugly fast. Diseases, illnesses, viruses travel quickly. So have a bucket, if you can get one, or plan for, you can just put garbage bags in your toilet and use it that way. But thinking about it and having a plan on how you're going to dispose of your waste is a very important, unpleasant part of the conversation. Again, blankets will be helpful. If you come to a Red Cross shelter, we have blankets, but they're not super comfortable. They serve their purpose, they'll keep you warm, but they're not soft, they're not really cozy. So if you have something like that makes you feel better, or you have children who are very particular and want something that's going to make them feel better, consider putting in pillows or blankets that you want to have. Also, keep in mind your pets. Remember that they're also going to need a gallon of water per day. They're also going to need food. They might also be taking medications that you'll want to have prepared. So keep your critters in mind, and remember they need a bowl to eat out of too. We also recommend the phone charger again, big, small, however you can charge your phone. It'll be really helpful to communicate with. Cash is key. And cash in small denominations. So if you have a disaster, none of the ATMs are going to work the same way that they do now, if at all. The cash registers at the grocery store is not going to work. The corner store won't work. So cash will be how you can get any of those things you didn't remember to pack, or that you don't have on hand that you just suddenly needed. You want to make sure that you have them in smaller bills, otherwise that gallon of water is going to cost $20 because people won't be giving change, or they may not have change to give. So try and have small denominations and some cash to be able to help make those purchases of things you need. You'll also want to have tools to turn off your utilities, or tools to help you get into your garage if that's where your kid is. So just think about the tools that you might need. If you're going to pitch a tent, you might want to have a hammer to help pitch that tent, just depending on what your plan is. And then here's for the office kit. Again, you'll want to have eye drops, a mask, help protect you from the stuff in the air. A bandana can help too. Sturdy shoes and gloves. Some of us go to work with heels or hard-soled shoes, and it looks great, but when a disaster comes, you're going to want some sturdy shoes with traction that will not let glass or broken things come through. So get yourself some sturdy shoes and some gloves. They're not gloves to keep you warm, but they're gloves to do work, to lift heavy things that aren't soft. So to protect your hands. So have some gloves in case you need to help anybody out of a situation. And again, you'll want to have some cash. It might help you get home or across the bay, have some cash. A financial go kit is also really helpful. You're going to want to have proof of your address, a copy of your deed, your lease, whatever it is for your home, so you can prove that that was your home. After a disaster, we need to find out who you are and where you're from, and if you have that stuff on an official form, it makes it a lot easier. We help everyone. Anybody coming into our shelters, we're here to help them. But when we start handing out financial assistance towards the recovery phase, that's when you're going to want to have all of these things that help you contact your insurance company and show us, that you had a home, and this is where you lived, and this is how many people you live with. Just try and collect as much information that you might need to make it easier to begin that recovery phase. You can have it all written down on a piece of paper and stick it in a Ziploc in your kit, so you have it right there, and then you can also put it in a thumb drive or put it up in the cloud. There's multiple ways that you can have this information easily accessible.
I just want to know if this media is going to be somewhere online.
It will be, yep. So already, the one that Terry did is online, and we'll send this one to Sophie as well, so she can put this one online. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Going back to the kid at home, I mean, going down the list that you're sure they can be quite bulky if you have it all. So where would you recommend putting it?
Very good question, especially if you have a family of 4 or 5. For me, it's a big backpack for me alone. It's tough to say where to put it. You're going to want it to be accessible. Have it near a door that you plan to evacuate out of. So if it's a house fire, you can grab it and have everything you need. So I recommend, if you have a closet by the door, have it in there. If you have a garage, you can have it in there. Just try and have it in a place that you can kind of pull it out of if you need to.
So not under the bed or behind the bed?
Under the bed could work, but I think my bed isn't tall enough. So if you have room under your bed, if you can get like a flat bin. The thing about your kit is you want it to be able to go. A lot of this stuff is stuff that you might be able to shelter in place. Maybe you can't go out because of some reason and you need to shelter in place. All of these things will help you stay there safely and well, but sometimes you're going to need to grab your stuff and go. So that's why I have mine in a backpack. I can grab it and go. Some people put it in an old suitcase on wheels. Some families, if you have a larger size family, several pets, you're going to have a lot of water. I've heard of people putting it in the wheeled trash cans and putting that in their garage, and then they just wheel it out if they plan to use it. So there's a variety of ways to do it. There's no one right way because everybody's home and supplies is going to be a little bit different. Any other questions while we're here?
A few minutes ago you talked about applications. You said you were going to mention some applications.
Some apps, yep, they'll be coming towards the end, and I'll let Eleanor share those with you. Okay. You got your financial go kit. You're going to want to put in copies of your ID, your passport, birth certificate, any other legal papers that you have copies of them. It just makes it so much easier. You can also store them in the cloud or on a thumb drive, flash drive, or have them printed out in a Ziploc, or all three. All right, let's talk about making a plan. So we encourage you to talk with the people that you live with. Where are you going to meet if there is a fire? Find out if they have any trouble getting out, trouble hearing the alarm. Find out if there's anything that you should be aware of. And then assign roles and work together. So some of the things that you can do, you could assign the role to one person to grab the kid. Another person their role could be to grab the dog or the baby or whatever it is that might need help getting out. So that's what we mean by assigning roles, is if you're in a group, be very clear, your role is to grab this, mine is to do that, and we're going to meet outside at this place. We want you to think about 2 exits out of every area. That's key. The hardest spot is the bathroom. Those windows are always really small. But it's important to think about 2 ways out. And if that way out is a window on the 3rd floor, you might consider getting a ladder or learning more about how to get out from that floor. We want you to have 2 meeting places outside of your home. So for the house fire, we want you to go outside and meet your family somewhere particular, so that when the fire department shows up, you can say, everyone is out, or we're missing grandma and she's in this back room. I can't find her. So that they know if they are going into life-saving mode or if they're going into firefighting mode. And that just helps them do their job better and faster. So have a meeting place outside and talk about it, practice it. And then for the bigger earthquake type disaster, we encourage you to have a contact out of state. So as soon as something happens here, we're all going to be reaching out to our loved ones trying to find out if they're okay. And the local lines might get jammed. So we encourage you to have an out-of-state contact, somebody just outside of the area that's affected, because their lines will probably still be working. And send them a text or a phone call that you're okay and where you're planning on being. And have that be your family or your friend's person, so that all of you, wherever you are, whether you're at school or work or at home, and if you have to evacuate, you can all be reaching out to the same person. So you have that same person to share and help coordinate keeping you guys together.
I have a question. Can you give examples of what you mean by outside the neighborhood?
Yep. The question was, can you give examples of what I mean by outside of the neighborhood? So near the home is where the fire, outside the neighborhood is, let's say there's a gas leak and you need to leave, there's 4 blocks evacuated, or some sort of chemical spill, or a really large fire. The other thing I've seen is police incidents. So somebody has like a police standoff going on. They won't let people go into that area until it's safe. So there have been times that we've canteen for people who can't go home yet because there's a police standoff. So having a place to meet your family outside of the area, for some of those reasons, can make it easier if you can't be close to home, to have a single place to leave a note or to find each other.
Is there a serious risk of tsunami in that case where we create that location to move for a family?
Very high.
Hi, yep.
Thanks.
And do you mean that they should go high or the risk is high?
No, the risk is extraordinarily low.
Okay. What's the question?
Okay, so I'll slow down though. No. So the question was, what kind of a risk for a tsunami and what should we do? Our risk is low. We don't have quite those fault zones here to cause one. If we have one, it's going to come from afar, from Japan or Alaska. So it's likely we'll have time to be prepared. And what you want to do is you want to get high and you want to go up, find the tall hill and get up there. So if you live along the coast of San Francisco, you might think of the nearest hill and a spot on there for you and your family to meet. If you live in the center of the city, it's unlikely that you'll need to have that, but it doesn't hurt to have a plan. And then we want you to practice them. So we want you to talk to each other, figure out your plan, make sure everybody in your family and your loved ones know what your plan is, and then practice it. We encourage you to practice twice a year. It's kind of easy to remember around the time change. Test your smoke alarms, practice your drill, make sure everybody in the family knows what their role is and what they need to do. And then this Thursday is the 30th anniversary of the Loma Prieta earthquake. So in 1989, 30 years ago, we had the latest or the last kind of large earthquake in the area. And so we will be practicing this year. There's a bunch of stuff happening throughout the city. If this is your thing, go down to City Hall or down to the Marina Green. There'll be a lot of resources and people out there talking about earthquake safety. But we encourage you on 10/17 every year to practice drop, cover, and hold on. You can go to the Great California Shakeout website. It's a worldwide exercise, but we're doing it a lot here in California. So if you're interested in learning more about that, they have a website and they have lots of resources there if you're really targeting earthquake. So that's this Thursday. And don't forget your pets in your plan. So be informed, know the ways that you can get information. Sometimes television will be the way that you're finding out what's going on in the Bay Area. It might be radio, television's not working. Internet and social media, there's a lot of options, a lot of ways to let your friends and family know where you are, if you're okay, or what you need. Telephone and text messaging in particular is a great way to connect, and highly likely the texting. The telephone lines might be hard to go through at certain points in a disaster, but texting has a higher likelihood of making it through. In San Francisco, text 888-777 with your zip code, and you'll be joining the SF, Department of Emergency Management's communication. And they will be sending out texts that avoid this area for a fire, or avoid this area for a car incident, but they're also pushing out information about things like Fleet Week or any other exercises or events happening in San Francisco that would affect your ability to get around or to get home. I highly recommend that one.
How many of you have 888-777 already on your phones?
The question is, how many of you have already signed up for the text alerts? We got a handful.
While you're sitting here, just put 88777 in and put in your zip code, and you'll be signed up in seconds. It's a really good way to be alerted what's going on in the city for your protection.
And then also on Thursday, they'll be doing, the Department of Emergency Management will be doing their first test of the wireless emergency alert system, which is similar to the Amber Alert system, which is just everybody in an area automatically receives a alert that this is happening. We're going to test San Francisco's ability to do that on Thursday during the earthquake exercise.
We had that somewhere in the same presentation, but what's going on with the advanced first wave alert system, whatever you call it, that's supposed to be in place in years?
Yeah, do you want to speak on this one?
You're talking about EEWS, the early earthquake warning system?
Yeah.
University of California, University of California, Berkeley, and the USGS, the U.S. Geological Survey, and a couple of other universities are working on a system that's called the Early Earthquake Warning System. And they are working on an app that you can download to your phone that will let you know, give you, depending on where the center of the earthquake is, give you seconds to maybe up to a minute warning that an earthquake is going to happen. This will be useful for BART, which can stop trains going under the bay. It will be useful for hospitals, who can turn on their generators and stop operations. And it'll be useful for you because you can pull your car over, stop your car while you're driving. You can duck, cover, and hold with your children. Turn off your gas stove. There's a lot of little things you can do if you just have a couple of seconds warning. And then the way it works is that the earthquake happens underground, and it takes a few seconds for those waves to come to the surface, and then a few more seconds for them to get to you. And if you live here and the earthquake is here, there won't be any warning at all. But if you live over here and the earthquake is here, it'll come up and it'll travel, and you will have hopefully a little bit of time to set yourself. There will be a lot more information coming on this later. It's, as Allison said, they're going to be releasing some form of the early earthquake warning system on Thursday. Sorry? Wireless alert, so that will be coming on. But there is more coming from the university. It's just a question of how the education is being developed. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was wondering if there was any idea to be operational, because they haven't been talking about it for years.
Yes, it's pretty near to being operational.
Other ways of being informed and ready. So you can take some of our first aid and CPR training. You can learn a little bit more about earthquake safety through online opportunities, fire safety, and practice your plan. So, like I said earlier, the disaster we respond to most is home fires. Across the country, there's over 66,000 disasters that we respond to a year. Many of them are home fires. So we are taking it upon ourselves to do a bunch of work around saving lives from home fires. We are going into neighborhoods and installing free smoke alarms in homes of vulnerable populations to help prevent fire fatalities. We talk with the residents when we go to their home. We want them to stay low and avoid the smoke, so heat and smoke will rise. If there is a fire where you are, get low so you don't inhale that much smoke, and you can see and survive a little bit better. Also, if you are evacuating from a fire and you go to a closed door, don't just automatically open it. For many reasons, there could be a fire on the other side, and if you open it up to more oxygen, it will grow. If there is a fire on the other side and you grab the handle, most of them are metal, it's going to be very hot and burn you. So what we recommend when you go up to a door and you're evacuating from a fire is to feel it. Start at the bottom and feel it with the back of your hand, so that if it is hot and you do get burned, you still can use your hand to pick up things and move things. It won't feel good, but you can still use your hand. So start at the bottom, feel with the back of your hand up the door, and if it's not hot, then you can feel safe to open the door. If it's hot, you need to look for another way out. And then once you get out, stay out, and that's when you call 911. Don't go back in for anything at all. Notify the fire department if there's someone or something inside that's important, and they will go in with their protective gear and their tools to be able to help you with that. If you can't get out, you want to move as far away from the fire as you can, get to the furthest room. You want to close that door, put a cloth underneath to prevent any smoke from coming in, and then hang a cloth outside the window. White is easy to see, but don't go searching through your closet for a white shirt. Any shirt, hang it out the window. That will let the fire department know that there's somebody in there. They're trained to, when they approach a burning house or a building, they look for this, because this is what we teach the community. If you're stuck, hang something out, and that lets them know that you're there, and they will work to come and help you. Again, smoke alarms are the most effective defense against home fires. You want to have one in every sleeping area. You want to have one on every level of your home and outside of your sleeping areas, and you need to test them. Ideally, you would test them monthly, but in reality, I would be happy if you did it every 6 months. We install free smoke alarms, so give us a call if you are in a home that doesn't have some. We would love to come and help you. If you know of other people in San Francisco or anywhere in the Bay Area, it's a nationwide program that we're doing. So far, we've had 638 lives saved by our smoke alarms in the last 5 years. So it's not just there was a fire and we count all the people that live there as a life saved. We do the digging in and finding out, was it our smoke alarm that alerted you to the fire? And those are the lives that we count as saved. So if it's during the daytime and they see the smoke and they get out, that's not what we consider a life saved. It's the smoke alarm alerting them, whether it's the middle of the night or any other time of the day, that we count as a life saved. So we have 638. There's been one up in the Santa Rosa fires. We had a life saved thanks to our smoke alarms in a trailer home. So it's a very important tool and life-saving thing that you can do for yourself, your family, and we are always looking for volunteers. If this is something that you feel passionate about and you'd like to help me get into the vulnerable homes in San Francisco, I could use some help. So come see me afterwards. Also, you want to defend against carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is not a tool that we have to offer for free, but it is one that we encourage everyone to consider purchasing. You want to have one on every level, and it's similar to the smoke alarm. You want to test it regularly. It's slightly lighter than air, so go ahead and place them up high. Yes?
How do you test the carbon monoxide sensor?
They have a similar test button. So on the smoke alarm, there's a test button and a hush button. On the carbon monoxide, there's also a test button. PG&E Public Safety Power Shutoff. I'm pretty sure we've all heard about this one. It's a big challenge for many of our neighbors and for us. It can be, they're turning the power off to protect lives, but it can also be harmful for some people if they don't have power. So it's an important disaster to prepare for and think about. Although it's not a disaster in which you will be displaced from your home, it will feel like a disaster if you don't have your power. So the Public Safety Power Shutoff was set up to help protect lives if there is high heat, red flag warnings, low humidity, and high winds. Those are some of the triggers that will tell PG&E it's time to shut off the power because it's risky out there. They could turn the power off right away. They could give you some warning. It could be for a day. It could be for 5 days. So you really want to think about how will you do if the power goes out. We'll think about that for a second. Most of us will be okay for the first 12, 24 hours, but then your phone's going to die, and you're not going to have anywhere to charge it, and the fridge is getting warm. So start thinking about and talking about with your family, what are some of the things that you can do to get through those times a little bit more comfortably. and real-time observations. So these are some of the things that they look for. A certain combination of any of these, they're going to shut off power to protect lives. So we want you to have a plan. Think about what you'll do. Do you need to go to work? Do your kids go to school? What's the plan? And also for pets. We're fortunate in San Francisco, it doesn't get too hot that often. Your pets probably can stay home without air conditioning and be okay. But if you live in an area where it gets really hot, you'll need to consider your pets and what they'll need during that time. Medical needs. If you have a medical device that you use to sleep with or to help support yourself, you want to know, to think about where you might go. There are things, if you have a medical device, you can go to PG&E and apply to be a part of their program to kind of be protected from losing your power or to be checked on before losing your power. But if you don't go and sign up with them, it's really hard for us to know where people are that have these needs. Unless they're already a part of the public health system. There's a lot of people in San Francisco who are independent but do need a little bit of help. So if you know your neighbors, you know of people who need help, be sure to check on them when power outages happen, because it can be a dangerous time for them. If you rely on elevators, you might want to consider how you're going to get up and down and whether you have enough food and water upstairs so that you don't have to haul it up the stairs when the power's out. Some of the things you could consider is to unplug your appliances and equipment to avoid damage when the power comes back on. If you do unplug everything, leave a lamp plugged in so you know when the power is back. Although there might be celebrations, neighborhood-wide when the power comes back, but in case there isn't, let the lamp tell you. Your refrigerator, that's an important thing to consider. Your refrigerator and freezer. The food is something that could be harmful to you if you don't consider the temperature. So you want to keep your door closed as much as possible to your fridge and freezer, and then use up your fridge food first, freezer food next, and then move on to your stored food. But if it's been warm for if it's gotten warm and warm for more than 4 hours, it's not safe to eat. And it's just not worth it. If you have a generator, make sure that you're only using it outdoors. Same for camp stoves, charcoal grills, they're not safe to use inside. Also, think twice about using candles. Many of the fires I respond to are started by candles. So if you do have a candle, and you're using it for light, be sure that you have it set up in a bucket of water or something to protect yourself. So if you fall asleep, the candle keeps burning, you're still protected. Lanterns and flashlights are safer. And then check on your neighbors. That's a big part of survival after any disaster is your community connections. Those are the people who will be our first responders. Our neighbors will be the first ones to help us if we need help getting out. So make sure you know who's around and who needs extra help so that you can be that person to either alert authorities that there's somebody here who needs help, or you can help them yourself. Let's talk more about earthquakes. So these are some of the faults that we have in our area. Last night's was kind of in that yellow-blue zone between 16 and just south of 16%. So it was close to us. Felt a little longer than I'm used to feeling them. There's a lot of information on the USGS website if this gets you excited, you want to learn more about earthquakes and faults and what kind we have in the areas. So I hope you all know, drop. You want to get low, cover your head. Ideally you can get underneath a sturdy piece of furniture, but that's not possible. It's not possible here. So just try and cover your head. And then hold on. If you are able to get underneath something, hold on to it, because when the earth shakes, it will too, and you want it to stay over you, not kind of bounce across the room. So hold on to it. If you're in let's say this room here, if the earth started shaking now, I would put my back against the wall and crouch low and cover my head. So those are you want to protect your head, it's the most important part. You want to get low, and then hold on if you can, if there's something to hold on to.
Sorry.
Is it a good idea to go under frame? Like nobody?
That's a very good question. His question is it a good idea to go under the door frame? It used to be construction was built in that the door frames were very sturdy. It's not quite the case anymore. It's not a guarantee that that's going to be a very strong load-bearing space. So there's that. That's why one of the reasons why we don't really suggest the door frame, but there's also only so many doors and all of us in here. We can't all fit in the door frame. And then the doors will swing, and so if you're holding on, you'll get your fingers smashed. So it's not one that we recommend. Some buildings will still have strong areas, and it might still just be like an old thing you learned and you still do it anyway. But we're really encouraging people to focus on the drop, cover, and hold. Those are the 3 actions that will really help protect you.
And can I ask a question?
Yep.
Let's say we are at home and we have a child in another room. I would go and run to my son, but is it okay, or I should just go under a table and just don't care?
So her question was about children. Let's say the earthquake happens and you're at home with your child, maybe it's night and everybody's asleep. If you're in bed, stay in bed, cover your head with your pillow. Sometimes children will sleep right through it. And they're in a safe place. Running around the house is not as safe as being in their crib or in their bed. So go ahead, and it's not going to be easy. I think that mothers in particular, but family and parents, move very quickly and instinctually. So if you can, stay in bed and cover your head so you stay safe. And when the shaking stops, you can go to them. But I know it'll be hard. Yes?
For aftershocks, how quickly do they happen?
I am not a scientist in this field, so and even the scientists in this field, you can't say. It's just a matter of the Earth and how it moves. The faults are very difficult to predict. But every time there is an aftershock, we want you to drop, cover, and hold on. Evacuate if it's not safe to be inside. Just keep practicing it. It could be an aftershock. It could be, another earthquake. So just go ahead and practice like it is an earthquake. Drop, cover, and hold on, and then be ready for whatever comes next. Interior corners or walls are safer places to be, and definitely in bed. Cover your head with your pillow. The greatest risk, the injuries that I've heard most about are feet injuries after the earthquake. You want to have sturdy shoes. There's going to be a lot of debris after an earthquake. If it's a large earthquake that we're dealing with, we just did an exercise for Fleet Week with the Department of Emergency Management and the military partners, in which we were practicing clearing lanes for emergency routes. It's estimated that there's going to be about 52 Salesforce towers worth of debris in San Francisco that will need to be removed after a large earthquake. So the city's practicing how do we figure out what are the priority routes? Where are we going to go first? Do we need to get to the hospital? Do we need to get to the shelter? And coordinating that movement of debris, because there'll be a lot of area that's still just going to be covered for a while because it won't be a priority to get there yet. Okay. So again, your greatest risk, yeah?
What's the plan if all the bridges are closed? Because we live North Bay, when we work East Bay or we work.
Yeah. So his question was, what's the plan if the bridges go out? And the plan includes ferries or the peninsula driving around. The ferries will be, but it will take some time. It won't be something that can happen right away. We have to inspect this for everything. We'll have to be inspected for safety. And every time there's an aftershock, they'll have to do another inspection. So it will be a very slow process, which is why it's important to have a plan so you can communicate with your loved ones that I'm okay, it's just going to take me a while to get there. But the ferries will be our primary, I think, mode of transportation if the bridges do go out, and utilizing the peninsula. If the freeways are still there, yes. Yeah. So some of the ways you can make your home resilient, there are picture hooks that can help hold it, and that even when the walls shake, your pictures will stay hanging. There's also earthquake putty, which is pretty sturdy and amazing. You can hold anything down. So if you have vases, anything that, especially if it's special to you in any way, that you want to hold down, don't want it falling off a shelf, don't want it landing on your head, use some earthquake putty, hold it down. I've even used it, we have molding in my apartment, I've even used it for the hooks that I hang my pictures off of. So the hooks will hopefully stay there. Just trying to prevent anything else from falling down, because that's really what can be harmful to you. And then have your shoes and a flashlight. If you use glasses, have them ready to go. So if you need to evacuate, you can. Okay, so if the earth starts shaking while you're outside, try to get to an open area. You want to avoid buildings, especially ones with lots of windows, but any building really. Trying to get away from them. Avoid the telephone lines and trees. You're going to want to do the same thing. Drop, cover, and hold. You can see the kids in the playground doing that. Getting as small as you can and covering your head. If you're driving, pull over to an open space and stay in your car until the earth stops shaking. And then you can turn on your radio and start looking for the information that will be coming in. It'll take some time, but I think the radio will be a wonderful way to get information on what's going on in your area. If there's a downed power line, don't touch it, stay away, and then advise people around you to stay away. And don't drive over downed lines, don't advise it. After an earthquake, so it stopped rumbling and shaking, check yourself first for injuries. I'm sure that, like me, your adrenaline will be pumping and you might not notice if something has injured some part of you. Check yourself, the people you're with, your loved ones. Make sure that you're okay, and then get to work helping your neighbors. See if you can help your neighbors get out, or call for services. You want to stay tuned to the local radio station. Don't go in damaged buildings. Save that word for the professionals that have the tools and the equipment and protective gear to go climbing around in dangerous areas. Leave the area if you smell gas, fumes. Kids at school. You're going to want to know your school's plan. What are they going to do? If the kids are at school when the earth shakes, how long will they keep them? How long will they wait for you to get there? Where are they going to go if they can't stay at school? So these are good conversations to have with your teachers and the school administrators. I'm sure that if you ask them, most of them will just send you a document with their plan, or maybe part of your orientation to the school. But you'll want to know what their plan is, and oftentimes schools might give you an opportunity to prepare something for your child in the event that something happens there. So maybe you could put in a picture of your family and their favorite lovey and a note from you, so that if it happens while they're at school, their teacher can bring out this bin of all of the kids' loveys, and they can have something to hold on to, and they can have a picture of mom and dad or whoever they live with to help them get through that tough time. And then you want to make sure your kids know what the plan is. It's a lot less stressful for them too if they know what the plan is. They know that there is a plan. It's just, life is a little bit less stressful if you have a plan. So let them know what it is. Let them know who they should call if they're old enough to make phone calls, or where to meet if they're old enough to help themselves out of the house in the event of a disaster. Make sure that they know these things. And then also make sure that you all have photos. This is going to be a challenge for after disasters. Reconnecting loved ones, children and pets in particular, are hard to connect with without photos and without some sort of documentation, which would be hard to come up with from the internet in a disaster. So have photos of you with your children and photos of you with your pet, so that the police or the animal care control can say, oh, this is that dog and you are that person, great, here you go. And then you can go and begin your recovery together. Photos are very helpful. Safe and Well is a website that Red Cross runs. It's up and running all of the time, and it's really useful in helping people connect. So what it is a place that you can go to. Let's say there is an earthquake here. You go to a shelter, or you have access to the internet. Go to safeandwell.org, safeandwell.communitiesos.org. You can just Google Safe and Well also and get to us. But that's where you can go and you can enter in your information. You can enter in your phone number, your name, your address, and a small, short message to anybody who looks you up. Not anybody is going to be able to go and just see a list of everyone who's safe and well that's outside of my organization. It's only going to be Red Crossers who can see it unless the two people match. So let's say Eleanor is here in the city and I'm in Idaho, and something happens and I want to check on her, I would go to Safe and Well, and if I have her phone number and or her address, if I have two ways of kind of connecting that she is who I'm looking for, then it will show the message. So it's possible to remain anonymous, but this is how we're trying to connect people after a disaster as fast as possible to alleviate some of the fear and around not knowing if your loved one is okay. So you can go on there, your family can go on there. If you have family far away, make sure that they know that this is a way that you can let them know if all other communication is down in San Francisco. You can come to a Red Cross shelter, you can call 1-800-RED-CROSS, and they can help you plug in your information. There was an earthquake?
Another one.
3.4. Where was it? Pleasant Hill.
That's the third one today.
Eleanor says that's the third one today. The joy of earthquake country. So on Safe and Well, you can register yourself as Safe and Well, and you can list, you could say something like, I'm at this shelter and my partner is at the, I haven't been able to find them, or my partner is sheltering at home and I'm across the bay. So you can leave a little bit of information and just let somebody know that you're okay. And this is Eleanor's favorite part. So I'm going to invite Eleanor up to talk about some of our apps. Unless you want to stay down there, I can pass this to you. She's coming.
Bonsoir. Big American accent. I'm doing show and tell. But I would like to talk a little bit about these applications. For me, this is one of the pride and joys of the Red Cross. They only work with your phone or your iPad. They do not work with your computer, which is annoying to me, but is sensible since they're mobile apps. So if you look across, we have really a lot of them. This is a first aid app. You should download it. It will walk you through if somebody has a burn, if somebody has a deep cut, if somebody's bleeding profusely, if somebody has a broken limb, if someone's in shock. It will walk you through the steps of how to take care of them, so you don't have to be an expert. It's really easy to panic when someone's hurt. That's a great app to have. We'll talk about that last. Pet first aid. That will help you take care of your dog, help you take care of your cat. It's also, if you have animals at home, a really good thing to download so that you can take care of them after a disaster also. If those of you who give blood, the donor app is amazing. It allows you to follow your donation from the moment you put it out of your body and into a bag to the moment it's delivered to another human being across the state or across the country. They will show you the path of it, and they will show you how it was used and where it went. It's really, really a nice gift after you've given that wonderful gift of your blood. This is the magic app, the one with the exclamation point. That's called Emergency. Does anybody have that app on your phone already? Well, it's really worth downloading. It has every possible emergency you could think of, from a chemical spill to a drought to a wildfire to a tornado. You can go to each one. It will tell you how to prepare, how to respond, what to do afterwards. It has a map of the United States on it, so that you can add all of your family and friends that live across the country, and it will put them across that map. And then, for example, my brother lives in Ohio. I get emergency alerts when something is going on near his house in Ohio, like a tornado is touching down, so that I can call him and make sure he's okay. So that app will warn me about the well-being of my family and my friends if I put their addresses into this app. You can also organize it so that it's 5 kilometers or 50 kilometers in the space around where you live, what kind of alert you want. In addition, it will show you the path of a hurricane. It's really fun. So you can watch the hurricane coming from the coast of Africa across the Atlantic Ocean and then turning left at Florida, and turning right at Florida and going up and slamming into Scotland. But those kinds of things are really marvelous to have, and it's very securing to know that you can find information about what's going on, and then you know how to react to it if it attacks either you or your family or your loved ones anywhere. So I completely am a fan of the Red Cross mobile apps. Are there any questions about the apps?
Yeah, does it cover other geographies besides the United States?
The saddest thing is this is an American Red Cross app. They will cover hurricanes that come towards us and into our airspace. They will cover them on both sides, so you can see the ones that are coming up from Mexico and you can see the ones that are coming across from Africa. But there was just a huge typhoon in Japan. It was not on the radar at all. And there was another one a couple of weeks ago in Korea, and it didn't show that either. So it does not show disaster. It's outside of the scope of what hits the American population. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? So I thought I'd do a little bit of show and tell for a while, because it's always fun to know what exactly a disaster kit might look like. You want a hat, and this is not the hat you want. But I brought it in here because I thought I'd just empty my purse of all the stuff I had in it, and it's just purse carry stuff. Why is this not the hat you want? I just learned kind of recently that the best hat you can have is a hat with a brim all the way around, and it's potentially leather. Because if you're in a wildfire or a city fire after an earthquake, you want to keep your head not from burning up and your hair from burning up. So women who have long hair, note that if you're in a fire, you want to be able to put it somewhere where it's not going to be burned. And gentlemen who have no hair on top, it's going to hurt. So get a hat with a brim that goes all the way around. I asked originally if I could just do this, and I said, no, that doesn't work, because then the front of your head is going to be burned. That was a completely new piece of information for me. I think that's kind of interesting. So, keep Kleenex, a lot of Kleenex. Can't imagine how your sinuses will be affected by this, by whatever dust disaster you have. You want a whistle, any kind of a whistle. Because if you fall and you can't be found, if you can't be seen, you want to be able to blow this thing until someone can find you. Even if it's not you that's hurt, if your child is hurt, you want to stay with that child. You can alert people around you that you need help. So keep a whistle. And just whistle in your car, glove compartment, whistle in your purse, whistle in the drawer of your office desk. There's no such thing as too many of those alerts. Any kind of a flashlight, little flashlight, big flashlight that you carry with you is going to help. Because you never know what time you're going to lose the electricity and how you might need to get yourself around. And don't overlook the benefit of a phone. That phone's got a really big flashlight right in it, so use that too. I found, oddly, when I was at a disaster meeting, the screw fell out of my reading glasses. And I went around asking the fire department, the police department, if they had any screws, you know, any of these little jobbers that you get to keep your glasses. And nobody had one. And since then, I have always kept glasses repair in my purse. So for any of those who are wearing glasses, don't go anywhere without one of these in something you have, in your car, in your bag, in your backpack, because you never know when you're going to lose that tiny little screw, and then you won't be seeing again. So those are little tiny things. Duct tape, it holds the world together. Never go anywhere without it. Throw one in your car, put them in your backpack. You can't believe how useful it's going to be. For example, holding up your flashlight while you're trying to light the charcoal grill. That would, just slam it against the wall. So, believe me, you're going to want to do that. Does everybody know what this is? This is an N95 mask. It's the mask that everybody was saying you want if you're in a fire, because the 95 means that 95% of particulate matter is cleared out when it breathes through here. This is a good mask to have. You can order them on Amazon, and they come in packs of 10 to 20. You don't want just one, especially if you have a family. You want a lot, and certainly you want one in your office, and you want if you have 4 people in your family, you want 4 of these in your car, and then you want the rest of them in your house, in your go kit. But the good news is that they're 95% effective. The bad news is if you have a beard, you're in trouble. Because it does not seal well around the face if you have facial hair. So this is going to be really good for women and children and for clean-shaven gentlemen. But if you're not a clean-shaven gentleman, you might want to look into what kind of mask, Google, what kind of mask can I order if I have facial hair? Because they must have something to protect you.
Duct tape.
Duct tape! Yes. I would not want to be around when you pull that off. Anyway, if you've never seen any, you can come up later and look. This is a little tiny Red Cross Coleman lantern. Has a nice little light. I can sit there and we can all talk to each other. It's not non-directional. The difference between a flashlight and one of these is that a flashlight points straight at you, but one of these is non-directional, so you can sit in a circle and everybody can see everybody else. It's a really helpful thing to have. Flashlights are a little bit too pointy to be able to be useful for a group sitting together. Any kind of Coleman lantern will do. For a reason I've never been able to tell, this has a compass on the top, just in case when I sit down in the dark I want to know what way is north. When Allison was talking about a battery pack, this is the battery pack. This is only one of many shapes of battery packs. How many of you guys have chargers for your phone that are portable? Oh, that's great. Keep them charged. Keep one in your car because you don't necessarily want to drain your car battery. Keep them in your backpack. Keep them in your office drawer. I thought I would. This is a sad little story. I had 3 children when I started working with the Red Cross, little tiny ages, and I had a great plan for their kits, because one was like 6 months old, so I always had the 9-month diapers and a brand new outfit that was appropriate for what was going to be 3 months later. And then I would look forward to changing into that cute little dress, and the diapers would be the right size. So I never forgot that I had a piece of clothing for my child that was brand new and lots of fun, and I could always change out. My kids always had new clothes every 3 months, not a lot, but a little bit, but it was a way for me to keep my kids' stuff. It didn't matter to me if the 9-month diaper was for a 6-month child, because it's better than no diaper, I can promise you. So I went looking at this the other day, and I found that all these wonderful theraflus and the triaminics and the, what is this? Ointment, they've all expired. I mean, one of these is 2002 and one of them is 2010, and you just can't use them anymore. All these nice things that I planned and put away, see how clean and nice they look? They are just useless. So I have to throw them all away. And that goes to someone speaking about replacing your kit. I'm a big one of having a kit that you use all the time. Get a great big first aid kit, and then kids go in there for their Band-Aids, and when you run out of Band-Aids, you get more, and they're always fresh. And they use everything in there. They're really good at going and getting the Neosporin and the wipes and all that stuff, and it becomes a part of your expectations that you have this kit that everybody uses. But if you buy something and you put it in a drawer for that time when you might need it, not only does nobody know what's in it and nobody use it, but your Band-Aids will fall apart, as Allison said, and most everything in there will have expired. So if you're going to have a first aid kit, make it a really active part of how your family works. I'm completely convinced that that's true. Because that's the way we did it, and everything is in here. How many of you have one of these? This is a blanket. Really? I mean, who wants to wrap themselves up in a piece of saran wrap? What is this? Tin foil. I would say don't fall for that at all. You could keep that as a laugh, as a joke, part of because it doesn't take a lot of room, but you want to go to Walgreens at Christmas and buy those $5 cozy blankets that you can throw in the wash, and they're like 4 feet by 8 feet long, and you wrap up in them, or the ones that say San Francisco Giants on them. Get something that's kind of fun and it's comfortable and goes in the washing machine, and that you wrap yourself up in all the time to watch TV or to talk in front of the fire at night. You want to be using the stuff that you have, not relegating it. Oh, there's so much stuff in here. I won't do all that, but I will say this. These things are from Marshall. This is a bandana. If you went to Berkeley, you would have been wearing a lot of these in the 60s. If they were black, they would be popular with Antifa. But for a disaster person, this is the most amazing thing you can possibly believe. They fold up into nothing. They're incredibly lightweight. You throw them in the bottom of your pack. They serve as a napkin. They serve as a face wipe. They serve to dry yourself off as a towel. And then they dry again really fast. So you don't have to iron them. You don't have to do anything except for just hang them up and let them dry over the back of any surface. They're really useful. You can buy them in packs of 20 at Amazon. And they just come in all different colors. I washed them all because I didn't like the starchy feel. I think that's kind of creepy. But the reality is that everybody will have their own, and they can do with it as they wish. Disasters are messy. They're coughingly, blindingly, dust-filled, glass-filled, dangerous. So you want to be sure that you, as Allison said, this is a pair of work gloves. You can get this at any hardware store. And this is so that you can pick up the glass that's fallen on your friend, or pick up that piece of that rock without tearing your hands apart. Keep one of these in your glove compartment. It doesn't take up any room. It doesn't have to be this well-packed stuff. I'm a complete believer in making sure that I'm comfortable. Now I know I'm addressing a French population, but canned wine is something I'm really selling these days. For one thing, it's funny. For another thing, it doesn't break in your car. I had a bottle of red in my car for a long time, and I realized that the bottle of red was just probably as much of a danger as everything else. Aluminum. We've mined all the aluminum in the United States that we will ever need. 75% of the aluminum we've ever mined is still in use. This is a really recyclable reusable container. The wine will not die in here. This is actually carbonated, makes me laugh. But if you want to relax at the end of the day, and when you've gotten all your babies in bed and you're not crying anymore, and you look at your wife and your husband and break out the wine. In addition, chocolate. Chocolate is a really good thing to have in the disaster kit, especially in your car. Or Cheetos. If your kids are Cheetos people, go get bags of Cheetos and put them in that disaster part of your car so that you give them something that will make them happy. Immediately past post-disaster, you want comfort things. You're not going to want to, what are those MREs? Meals ready to eat. You're not going to want to go to the military and buy the MREs that are the sawdust, that they're so nourishing. You're going to want something that makes you feel good, and feel happy, feel comfortable, and feel cozy. So don't overboard on freeze-dried food that you would never eat unless you were on a camping trip far, far away, or military food, or pre-packed food, or bottle, or bags of water. I have a case of water in my car, and my children are now all working. They'll come and they'll grab a bottle and they'll take it with them when they leave, and I just replace it. So that the water in my car is always being replaced. It's never just sitting there dying in the heat. Snickers. You know, Halloween is a really good time for buying bite-sized, really nice candy that you can keep in your car, or in your closet when it's nice and cool, or in your office desk, because you can take this with you. Sugar's really good after a disaster. It makes you happy. Office kits. Really, you're going to want to be able to get down the stairs safely. You're going to want to be able to see. You're going to want to be able to walk home, because San Francisco is a small city. You can walk anywhere in the city. I know. I grew up here. And when we run out of money for the bus, when we were kids, we just walked home. We walked from downtown out to the outer edges of the city. That is something you can perfectly possibly do. I'm looking for my eye drops. I can't find them. So there's something you can get at Walgreens, which are individual eye drop holders, and they just flip up the little top and squeeze it into your eye. Those will become absolutely essential to your ability to see after a disaster. So they have no chemicals. You don't want Visine. You don't want any of that stuff that murine, none of the stuff that's chemically based that'll turn your eyes white and shrink your capillaries. You want sterile water. And you keep a pack of 5 because they're all attached, and you pour it into your eyes. And it doesn't hurt, and it will wash them out, and that becomes really important to your well-being because you can see. And then the bandana is really good for them too, because you can just wipe your face off as the dust accumulates. I'm sure some of you have seen photos from 9/11 when people were running out of the collapsed buildings and they were just covered. They're white with dust from their head to their toe. You don't want to strangle on that. You don't want to breathe it in. The bandana will help you from breathing it in, and the water will help you see. So those kinds of things are rational. Go kit for your office is not a big thing. It's a small thing. It's a Ziploc bag with a small amount of contents in it. And the car kit is a generous way of saying your entire car becomes your kit. So you put things in your glove compartment, you put things in the trunk, you put the case of water down in your trunk. You can have a bag on top of the case of water like this, and keep a first aid kit in there. But essentially, you want to be sure that what you've got is useful, that you know how to use it, that you know what's in there, and that it will protect you and your family. Kits are really important, and when we talked about photographs, just so that you know, in the event that you have, say, a babysitter or someone who works in the afternoon with your kids, you want a photograph of that person with your children also, because if that is going to be the individual that comes to pick your children up because you're trying to struggle home from downtown on foot, then you need a photograph of those people too. Or if your sister is here, or your next door neighbor, you have a special relationship with somebody who picks your kids up on Thursdays, you have to make sure that you have that picture, because I'm pretty sure that the school here will keep the kids until somebody shows up to pick them up, but they know. At least when my kids were in grammar school, they wouldn't let them go to anybody they didn't know. They stayed until somebody showed up, and the whole school stayed until somebody showed up. So if it's not you who's going to show up, it's going to be your mother or your sister-in-law or your next-door neighbor. You want to make sure that they have a picture of that person too, and that that person has a picture of them all together. So expand the photograph out to who is going to need to help you take care of your family, and are they in a way, in an accessible way, so your children and your school can see those pictures. Any questions about that?
I think pretty much.
Here's an odd thing, floods. This just came on. We're talking now that there's climate change and the tides are starting to rise, they're actually talking about floods. And floods are now happening everywhere. So the recommendation is learn about your area's flood risk and consider getting flood insurance. I live in San Francisco. I've never considered getting flood insurance, but when I saw that, I thought, well, maybe I should just talk to somebody about it, even if I live on a hill. Does anybody here have flood insurance? Anybody here? Oh, do you?
No, I don't, but I have a question. Does anybody have an insurance for earthquake?
I can't hear you.
Earthquake insurance?
Oh, I have earthquake insurance. The California Earthquake Authority, CEA, provides earthquake insurance for less expensive than most of your general insurance companies.
But
and
I'm curious, does anyone has one?
anyone, do you guys have earthquake insurance? I have it. Yeah. How many people have a gas meter automatic turn off outside their house? So if you don't know about this, this is relatively new and it can actually cut the cost of your insurance if you have a home. There are these little red plastic see-through things that they put on the gas meter just before it goes into your home, and if there's a good shake, the meter will shake and there's a little ball, so simple, that falls off. And when the ball falls off, it turns the gas off to your house. It's a really nice way of not having to worry about having to figure out what to do. Of course, you can't turn the gas on until PG&E comes back, so that's the bad side. The good side is it will reduce your costs for your insurance on an annual basis. It's very inexpensive to put in, and it will save you a lot of grief if you're like a home or you're traveling to New York and there's a big earthquake in San Francisco and you have no idea what's going on in your house. At least you can be sure that the gas is turned off. The California Earthquake Authority, CEA, provides you with information and earthquake insurance, and it's less expensive than going through your insurance company, but your insurance company might give you some credit for having that. Are there any other questions? You're probably dying to go home. I'm not offering the wine because I'm going to take it and put it back in my car. The only other thing about light is that there are alternatives to both the lantern and the flashlight, and these you can probably find in any sports store, and also around Halloween, lots of kids have them. It's a break and shake, and these can last from 6 to 12 hours, and you only can use them once, but once again, it's a way to take a light and drop it in the center, and everybody can see, and it makes people feel a little safer, not quite so dark. That's it. Are we on? So thank you. If there's any questions, we're happy to answer questions. Otherwise, you're free to escape. Oh, yes.
I just wanted to clarify for you where we can find that online. Was the Red Cross or was
the apps? Are you talking about the apps?
Martha was she said she's going to talk about it.
Oh, I may have that.
Thank you so much again, Alison and Eleanor, for this really complete presentation. It was very nice to have you. Merci encore au directeur du lycée de nous avoir prêté cette salle. Donc cette présentation va être mise en ligne sur notre site internet à la page, à l'onglet, en cas d'urgence / sécurité. Et vous avez 3 onglets, vous avez votre sécurité, vous avez en cas d'urgence, pardon, le premier, le deuxième c'est votre sécurité, le troisième c'est séisme et catastrophes naturelles de mémoire. Et vous avez déjà une présentation à l'intérieur, c'est la présentation qui a été faite le 8 octobre dans la baie. Voilà. J'ai des flyers pour ceux qui veulent s'enregistrer ou actualiser leur enregistrement. N'hésitez pas à le faire, c'est important. Parce que dernière chose que je voulais vous dire ce soir, ça vous permet également de pouvoir exercer votre droit de vote, si tel est votre souhait, de voter à l'étranger. Et nous aurons des élections l'année prochaine, des élections de vos conseillers consulaires au mois de mai, et vous avez jusqu'au mois d'avril pour vous enregistrer sur la liste électorale. Vous avez déjà toutes les informations en ligne sur notre site. Voilà, si vous n'avez pas de questions, merci beaucoup d'être venus aussi nombreux ce soir. Et j'espère que vous allez préparer votre kit. Et je vous souhaite une très bonne soirée.